For those who grew up with a Nintendo 64, these two games were likely your go-to 3D platformer on your shiny new Christmas present. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're squaring off the two biggest 3D platforming juggernauts on the N64, Nintendo's Super Mario 64 versus Rare's Banjo-Kazooie. Round 1, Legacy. Super Mario 64 was the premier launch title for the N64, and is considered a major revolution in 3D gaming thanks to its sprawling worlds, innovative camera controls for its time, and for being the first console game to employ full 3D analog movement. It was also the best-selling game on the system, with over 11 million units sold. There was a Super Mario 64 2 planned for the 64 Double D. However, when that expansion failed, the project was cancelled, with the next 3D Mario platformer being the successful but divisive Super Mario Sunshine on the GameCube.
Now, boys, don't touch that stuff.
Though we did much later get the incredible Super Mario Galaxy games on the Wii. Banjo-Kazooie came to us from UK developers Rare, whose previous successes at the time include Donkey Kong Country and GoldenEye 007. Releasing 2 years after Mario 64, the game also became a critical and commercial success, and while it didn't share the same revolutionary praise as Mario, it is still considered one of Rare's best works. That game got a direct sequel with Banjo-Tooie 2 years later, another stellar hit by Rare. However, in 2002, Rare was purchased by Microsoft, and with that change in management, came a change in attitude into thinking that 3D platformers were dead, meaning the last we saw of the duo was in this monstrosity. Of course, the successful Kickstarter of the spiritual successor, Yooka-Laylee, said otherwise, and we can only predict that this was something like Microsoft's reaction when they saw the newly formed Playtonic got $1 million in crowdfunding in less than a day.
You idiots! You morons! That's an insult to morons.
Still, this one is kind of obvious. Banjo-Kazooie's last great game was back in 2000, while Mario continues to be one of the biggest names in gaming today. So, 1 point to Mario, and a big ol' middle finger to Microsoft.
Will you be releasing good games again?
No! Hey, get down!
Winner, Mario 64.
Here we go!
Round 2, Movement and Power-Ups. For his 3D debut, Mario came with a surprising amount of acrobatic maneuvers, ranging from backflips, long jumps, somersaults, butt stomps, triple jumps, climbing, and crawling. All of these moves are available to the player right from the start, but explaining how to do them is a bit problematic for casual players, as there's no tutorial aside from the odd signpost. Banjo's moveset has quite a few similarities to Mario's, though with a bird on his back, he has a bit more variety. On top of backflips and butt stomps, Kazooie can hover for a few extra feet, which is very useful for tricky jumps. Not to mention she can shoot eggs, walk up steep slopes, and barge enemies with her beak. Most of these moves can't be used until taught by the mole, Bottles, and while a tutorial teaching the basic moves can be skipped, the more advanced ones cannot. The power-ups for both games are where things get vastly different and hard to compare, so let's focus on what is featured in both games: flight. Mario has a winged cap that can be found in any red question mark block. The controls for the winged cap, however, aren't exactly smooth sailing, as Mario has to build up momentum in order to gain altitude, which can be very cumbersome. Compare this to Banjo-Kazooie, where you only need to press the A button to gain height, and it's easy to see why this game makes you feel more like Superman. There is one last feature that Banjo-Kazooie has that Mario has no equivalent for, and that is, of course, the animal transformations provided by the shaman, Mumbo Jumbo, each one allowing for the duo to explore previously unreachable areas and expanding the gameplay variety. So in the end, while both games have their own fair share of pros and cons that cancel each other out, Banjo-Kazooie ends up taking this round, mostly thanks to Mumbo. Winner, Banjo-Kazooie. Round 3, Enemies and Bosses. Being a Mario title, most of Bowser's trademark minions are out to get Mario in droves. You've got your standard Goombas, Koopa Troopas, Boos, Piranha Plants, Bob-ombs, and many other recurring enemies that you'll see throughout your adventure. As for the bosses, they're rather infrequent and go down rather easily with just 3 hits, and honestly, they're not that memorable. Bowser, on the other hand, is a bit more noteworthy since you fight him 3 times in the game, though his battles are pathetically easy, as they merely involve swinging him by his tail into some bombs scattered around the arena. Banjo-Kazooie foes, on the other hand, have a more unique variety to them, as every world has a unique set of enemies that match the theme of the area. For example, you may have giant ants in the giant anthill, then walking tombstones in a cemetery. Mario has these unique enemies as well, but they're nowhere near the variety we see here. Banjo's bosses, just like Mario's, are rather infrequent and rather easy to take down, except for the one battle that matters, the final battle against the Witch Gruntilda. This boss fight is incredibly challenging, but oh so rewarding thanks to the various phases and the absolute satisfaction of knocking the witch off of her castle and burying her under the rubble of said castle. Banjo-Kazooie easily takes this round. Winner, Banjo-Kazooie. Round 4, Collectibles.
Here we go!
Both games have very similar progression systems, where the player must collect some important trinkets. For Mario 64, there are 120 stars to collect, with a minimum of 70 needed to beat the game. These stars are in turn used to unlock certain doors in the hub world. Collecting 100 coins in each level will also grant you a bonus star. And while this process can get a bit tedious, it's not as important unless you're going for 100% completion. Banjo-Kazooie has 2 important trinkets, jigsaw pieces and musical notes. Jigsaw pieces are used to access the game's levels, with 100 in total, of which 94 are needed to finish the game. And the musical notes are used to unlock certain doors in the hub world to progress further. However, there is a frustrating roadblock that can really annoy players. The collected musical notes aren't saved. Instead, the game simply keeps a tally of the number of notes you've collected on that run. This means that if you die or leave the world, you have to start the process all over again. Since collecting 100 coins isn't as important or annoying as collecting 100 notes, Super Mario 64 takes this round to equalize the score. Winner, Mario 64. Round 5, Levels. Both games are built around a hub world that is used to access their uniquely designed levels. Super Mario 64 has 15 of these levels, with 6 stars hidden in each stage. The first few stars are pretty straightforward to find, since the start of each stage normally gives a hint to what the player is looking for, and it's generally as simple as getting from point A to point B. That being said, the aesthetics of these levels have not aged well, and most of the worlds use very basic geometric shapes as platforms that look rather ugly by today's standards. Banjo-Kazooie, on the other hand, has only 9 worlds, but the trade-off is that they're bigger than Mario 64's worlds and have more jigsaw pieces to collect within. Plus, the game places a stronger emphasis on exploration as opposed to A-B traversal, and the game allows for Banjo and Kazooie to stay in the world for as long as they need to find all the Jiggies, as opposed to Mario 64, which ejects the player from the world whenever they found a star.
Here we go!
It's also abundantly clear that Rare put a lot of attention to detail when creating each of these worlds, thanks to each level being multi-layered with loads of NPCs to meet and chat with. So in the end, it's a question of quantity versus quality, as both games strive to hit different styles of gameplay. It's a close one to call, but in the end of this final round, the winner of the face-off is Banjo-Kazooie. Super Mario's impact on gaming as a whole cannot be overstated enough, as we said in the first round. However, iconography and sales figures don't determine the quality of a game. Banjo-Kazooie's attention to detail and variety in gameplay was more than enough for it to be considered the better title. agree with our choice? Let us know which game you preferred, and for more great videos published every day, be sure to subscribe to Watch Mojo.